Some of the best parts of travel are when the unexpected happens. This is Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there. As we found out, Dubrovnik has plenty to offer, but there's lots more to see in this part of Croatia. Day trips galore happen from this city, and today we're going to take you on one of those to a rather special place. So join us on the journey. Now, earlier in the season, I was talking about the slight disadvantage of the situation of my apartment overlooking this street here. And the bar below. And, I've got an early start tomorrow morning, so I was hoping to get a bit of peace and quiet, but then this happened. Bar Betula is where it all happened, and it's one of the best evenings I've had on the whole trip. Brilliant musicians, lots of fun, and lots of drinks. But now, it's time to hit the hay, because tomorrow is an early start. So the party went on beyond midnight last night, which was really good because I had to get up at 6 o'clock this morning. Never mind, today is a day of discovery. It's one of three major trips that you can take from Dubrovnik. You can choose to go to either Montenegro to see basically the Balkans equivalent of the Lake District. You can go up to Korčula Island, which is a really nice area to explore the wine region of this part of the world. Or you can do what we're doing today, which is to go over the border into Bosnia to Mostar. Now, Mostar is a name that you may be familiar with. It's got one of the most iconic symbols in the world. The bridge over the river there was destroyed during the war in the 1990s. It was meticulously reconstructed in more recent times, and it's now a World Heritage Site. That's where we're off to today. A day trip to Mostar is going to come in at €65 per person, and because you're going over the border into Bosnia, don't forget your passport. Mostar is not the only attraction on this trip. Our helpful guide, Carmelina, has already told us about the Elefiti Islands, which we passed on the coast up here. And then just as we crossed over into the border into Bosnia, we got a sight of the Prjelski Bridge. This is a feat of brilliant construction, which basically connects one part of Croatia to another without you having to go over to the border into Bosnia. It was a very important piece of work and paid for by the European Union, only completed a couple of years ago now, and as I say, it avoids that cross-border trip that many people had to make in the past. Now, when you arrive in Mostar on this particular tour, you won't be left alone. Another local tour guide will give you a brief introduction to the city and some points of history. But it's not hard to find. From the main bus station and parking area, you quickly descend into the old town, which is a labyrinthine, ancient, old city. But beware, it's rather touristy these days. There's a huge market that lines the streets, selling all kinds of tat, and restaurants trying to basically goad you inside with special offers. One of the interesting things here, though, is the prices. We'll tell you about that in a minute. And in the corner of Mostar, right at the top of the old town, you'll find a particularly poignant museum. It's the Museum of Genocide. That's a very hard word to take in, especially when you're meant to be on holiday, but it's a very important word because the Serbs kind of apologise for their wrongdoing during the war at first. But then when the United Nations declared it a genocide, they retreated from that apology. and tried not to speak of it again. And what's interesting is that this particular museum, which is full of poignant and harrowing photographs, isn't run by the state. It's run by local people, and it's their testimonies that live on here today. There's pretty much only one path through the old town, and eventually you'll come to here, the money shot, the place where you will want to take the photograph. The historic bridge in Mostar, which was destroyed in 1993 and rebuilt in the 2000s. We're here at the end of the tourist season, so there are a mere 20 or 30 people on this bridge, all posing for their selfies. But in the summertime, you can't move here. It's absolutely mad. But today it's beautiful and rather poignant because we're here almost 34 years to the day when this bridge eventually disintegrated and fell into the river below. In more recent years, the bridge has become famous for people jumping from the top of it. In fact, just before we started recording, a man did that. He jumped off the top into the water to great applause from the crowd below, and then promptly got out, wrung out part of his wetsuit, and then turned it into a kind of begging bowl for tips. It's quite the sight, really. But down by the river here, you really get a scale of what went into the reconstruction of this bridge. Original construction methods were used. There's no ironwork, there's no concrete balustrades or anything like that. It's a simple arch, a method dating back centuries that was skillfully replicated when the bridge was actually rebuilt in the mid-2000s. And to be here in person is rather nice. Now, an important word on spending if you're coming to Bosnia. They have their own currency here called the convertible mark, although converting it can be quite tricky. If you order anything at a restaurant here, they will prefer it if you pay in cash. Cards are supposed to be taken, but are not widely accepted. They do, however, take euros. And the easiest way to work out the prices is that it's €1 for every 2 convertible marks. And one of the great things is the prices here, even in the tourist areas, are quite cheap. I managed to get a main course with a drink for lunch today for about €12, or 24 convertible marks, if you're into converting things. You're listening to Travelcaster, coming to you today from Bosnia and Herzegovina in the Balkan region of Europe. We've experienced the bridge at Mostar, and now it's time to move on to our next attraction. Before we do that though, don't forget to check out travelcaster.blog for everything you need to know about getting here and what to do when you arrive. And please subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. And about 1 hour after leaving Mostar, we're at our second and final destination of the day, the Niagra Falls. Formed over many centuries, legend has it that they are in fact the tears of a giant. Other people think that they're named after the singer Lenny Kravitz. Neither are true, both is a legend. Repeat it enough and it becomes currency. But seriously, this place is known as the Niagara of the Balkans, and it's easy to see, hear and feel why. As you get closer to the waterfalls, you can see them gushing down and indeed feel the spray on your face as you get ever closer to them. From where I'm standing on this small pebbly beach, I can see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 waterfalls all gushing down into the river below. And there are a few people braving the elements, stripping off and having a bit of a swim. It's a safe place to do so, lots of people having lots of fun. Now just a word about the waterfalls. The entry to this particular attraction wasn't included in the €65 price of the overall trip. We had to pay that extra. And another very small extra, a €2 tourist tax to enter Bosnia-Herzegovina. All of that was payable on the bus to the guide, and we were asked to pay in cash. So if you are coming on one of these trips, it's worth bearing that in mind. Well, that was a day trip that certainly took in the whole day. 12 hours in total. You'll be ready for a drink at the end of it. That's going to wrap it up from this edition of the podcast. Thank you for listening. As usual, you can find out how to get here and what to do when you arrive by logging on to travelcaster.net. Subscribe to the podcast and join us again soon for some more Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there.